What is going on, everyone? Ivan here. Now, let's be real for a sec. Every single founder dreams about a moment when they begin to scale. Usually, when someone imagines scaling, it's a point in your business when it grows beyond you. And it's also a point when your business becomes a machine that runs on systems rather than just pure hustle. However, even though it sounds great and all, there are some things that you should keep wary of. Hiring too fast, expanding too soon, or growing without a proper structure can be really detrimental towards your guys' business and even cause burnout. But on the other hand, if you wait too long, you may miss your momentum and the opportunities that come just once. So the question is, how do we really know when it's the right time to scale? And when should you pause, refine, and hold steady? And that's why in this guide, we're going to be covering the art on deciding and when's the right time to hold back. And if this video is just not enough and you need more of a personalized approach, that's exactly where Paired can come in. At Paired, we've helped hundreds of businesses find that sweet spot where that growth is sustainable and not chaotic. But as a rule of thumb, let's go ahead and discuss on one side of the line you're actually on. Now, first things first, and this should be the number one rule, but we should only scale when demand consistently outpaces capacity. One of the clearest signs to scale in your guys' business should be when you just cannot keep up with the demand even after you have optimized your guys' current systems. If your team is consistently overworked, customers are waiting, and the service quality is starting to slip, maybe that's a sign for you. And scaling here doesn't just mean hire as many people as possible and do it all blindly. What it does mean is adding the right support so your systems don't break under that momentum. And here's a quick and practical example for this. Let's say you're running a business and you've had to turn down clients and you're always out of stock. Adding capacity to your guys' team now becomes a necessity rather than a luxury. Because if you wait too long, those opportunities can just slip. However, I do gotta warn you, that demand has to be consistent. If it's a one-off thing or you just modified something inside of your campaign or it's a holiday, then maybe it's not a good time to consistently scale. Sure, we can hire some contractors when it comes to those busy times. However, I'll be really careful when it comes to full-time hires. Remember, we want steady growth and not a reactive expansion. Now, the second pillar of this is to scale when your systems are stable and not when you're still patching leaks. Before you pour fuel onto the fire, make sure that your business doesn't have existing holes. Because think about it, if you're having problems now, imagine what will happen if you're 10x or 100x your guys' efforts. Scaling doesn't fix inefficiency, it just multiplies it. And if your current processes are breaking down already, it's going to be bad news for you as you guys try to scale. So, if I was in your guys' shoes, I would do a deep dive on your guys' current processes and make sure that nothing is slipping through the cracks. And that ties quite nicely into the third point that I wanted to mention, which is to scale when you have predictable revenue and not just hope. Let's talk numbers for a second, because growth should be funded by data and not just vibes. The time when we want to scale should be the time when your revenue is going to be consistent month over month. However, if your churn rate is high and you're having a lot of really crazy ups and downs, then I want to say it's a good idea. And the businesses that have a much easier time with this are going to be the ones that are going to be centered around subscriptions. Because with subscriptions, it's much easier to predict your month-over-month revenue. However, if you're selling physical products like the stone case, for example, it's really hard to predict how much actual revenue and demand you're going to have. Sure, if you've been around for a long time, you may have an idea based on historical trends. However, it is much harder to predict compared to subscription models. And that's why if I was in your guys' shoes, I'd go ahead and implement some sort of a subscription model inside of your guys' business, and that way it's a lot more predictable. And when it comes to the predictability and the scalability behind your guys' business, we want to make sure that we have the right people in charge. If you're still in the area where the founder kind of does everything, then I'd say you should hold back. We want to make sure that before the rocket ship takes off, that things are going to be stable. So depending on your guys' business model, we need to make sure that each department is going to be taken care of. And that includes managers, systems, and just the capacity to actually hire. So that way, whenever we scale, we're going to be ready to go. Because if your team already looks stretched too thin, scaling will just magnify the stress. And look, if you're currently in the phase where you want to start scaling, but you're just not sure where to start or find those people, that's exactly where Pair can help you out. Essentially, the way we operate is we go ahead and connect fast-growing businesses with top-tier talent to make sure their guys' structure stays nice and strong. All of the candidates are going to be pre-vetted and they're going to be ready to go and plug in into your guys' workflow. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, feel free to check out the link down below in the description. Other than that, let's go ahead and get back to the video and discuss on how to make our scaling successful. Now, as you guys are deciding whether you should scale or not, you should really look for proof. And that's exactly where KPIs come into play. Because when it comes to scaling, it should not feel impulsive. The right time is going to come. You just have to make sure that you have the data to support it. And the way that we're going to do that is by looking at our KPIs. And that can include a lot of things like last lifetime value, retention rates, term, or even fulfillment rates. However, if those numbers start dipping as you add more customers, I'd go ahead and pause it and fix that specific part of your guys' process. And I hope that you guys are sensing a pattern that I'm trying to bring here. And if the foundation is not strong, as you guys grow higher and higher, everything is going to collapse. And that could be a huge and a very costly mistake. The number one place where I personally see a lot of people make this mistake is when it comes to fulfillment. You know, they may have problems with their packaging, let's say every 10, 20, or 30 orders. However, when it comes to scale, you're going to get a lot of people. And the thing is, if your business is not performing up to expectations, then the customer reviews are going to start to dip, and then nobody is going to come to you. And I'm fully aware that I may sound dramatic here, but I'm just trying to have you see the entire picture. The way you do one thing is how you do everything. And if there are current holes in your guys' system and they're clearly visible by your guys' data and KPIs, then we need to go ahead and fix them. And we need to keep monitoring them over and over, because you may not have a problem, let's say with 10, 20, or 100 customers, but you may have a problem with 1,000 or 10,000 customers. So we need to keep tabs on those KPIs, because if we don't, things can slip really quick. And that brings us really well into our next point, which is to have a direction as we're trying to scale. Because one mistake that many founders make is they go ahead and just chase growth without a direction. Scaling needs to align with the strategy, and it's going to be different for different businesses. Whether it's expanding product lines, to entering new markets, to improving your guys' customer support, it is going to look different for different sorts of companies. Without clarity, you risk scaling noise instead of results. So before we press the trigger on our scalability efforts, we want to make sure that we're really ready, that we have the objective that we're working towards, we have the greater vision, and we have the exact steps that we need to take in order to get there. Just because everybody's doing it can lead to a really severe crash. And that's why we want to make sure that we have everything covered in order to avoid it. And when I say covered, I don't just mean financially and your guys' processes, but I also mean mentally. Because scaling, it's not just operational, but it's really mental. It means trusting others, letting go of control, and being okay with the fact that everything is not going to go perfect 100% of the time. And look, when you guys are in doubt, don't expand, just optimize. Because if we're not sure, we need to start with refinement. As I mentioned before, we need to streamline our systems, operations, and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. Because scaling should be extending something that already works and not just trying to fix something that doesn't. And as I mentioned before, if this video is just not enough and you're looking for something that's going to be a little bit more tailored and specialized towards your guys' needs, we can help you out here at Paired. We've helped fast-growing startups, SaaS teams, healthcare providers, even e-commerce brands scale confidently and not chaotically. Whether you are ready to build an overseas team, we can go ahead and help you figure out exactly where you're at and help you map out the whole process. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, feel free to check out the link down below in the description. And there you folks have it. If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this, as it tremendously helps support the channel. Till next time, peace.